Key lessons on becoming famous from the book Stop Chasing Influencers. One of the key lessons is that you want to partner with people who have larger audiences, larger email lists. You want to leverage affiliates and you want to co host webinars with people who have larger audiences. An example where I did this was I was working at a Series A startup in San Francisco, and I decided I wanted a bigger audience of Amazon sellers. So I partnered with this company called Feedvisor, and we co-produced this webinar called Tips from an Ex-Amazon Insider: How to Scale to a $20 million business. So one of the key lessons from this book, and one of my key lessons in marketing all these years, is it's much easier to piggyback off people that have built a huge platform than to just start from scratch and build it from the ground up. Another thing that you want to do is be different and stand out. And I think an excellent example of this is this SDR influencer. He's somebody that advises people on things like cold emails. And what's distinctive about him is he has blue hair. So here he is on a professional network, LinkedIn, networking with very high level VPs and sales, etc. He's got over 70,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is pretty big for LinkedIn, and he has bright blue hair. And even I don't even remember his name, but I just Google blue hair, cold email SDR guy, and that's the personal brand that's been built. Now, one of the differences, in my opinion, versus the authors is that I think being different largely has to do with being superficially different. And that can be as obvious as something like blue hair, not necessarily being fundamentally different. Because I think if you're fundamentally different, then you're not really giving people what is in big demand. And what's in big demand means modeling yourself off people that were already successful. But superficially different is a way to stand out. Create amazing content and build your email list. Email is what converts leads into customers. Somebody who really highlighted this point to me is Jason Lemkin, the founder of SaaStr, basically the face of the software industry. And he just talks about how, even just in his event promotion, really email is the only thing that really gets people to take action and to buy tickets. And similarly, with enterprise business to business, he talks about how even the CEOs of billion-dollar companies will look at a cold email, and if it's persuasive enough, people will respond. And another myth out there is that email is dying, and to some extent it is in terms of open rates, etc. But let's just look at this graph showing the number of email users worldwide from 2017 and projected to 2025. You can see that it just keeps increasing. So, writing those emails, you want strong headlines, clear takeaways, you want to keep straight to the point. So what is the main value that you're creating in the email, which is usually some sort of education or lesson. And you want to offer exclusive content so that people that are subscribed to your email list feel like they're VIPs. Now, one of the easiest ways to grow your email list is with guest posting, joint ventures, social media, and webinars. Here's an example where I was able to get an article published on MSN.com. It's called "The Best Digital Marketing Courses from an Ex-PlayStation Brand Manager Are Now Public." So basically, this is an example of guest posting. And some of these posts you can just pay journalists to get published. Others you can pitch them with a compelling story. You can also respond to emails from Haro, Haro. And those emails go out about 3 times per day. It's a little bit different around the holidays. And what they are is journalists seeking out to influencers or experts like yourself to contribute guest content as an expert. And you're going to get backlinks to your website by doing so. Help people solve their biggest struggles. So one of my earliest publication successes was putting out this course, How to Sell Websites for $15,000. I have different variations of how this was worded. You can see this is how to find clients and sell $15,000 websites. And this course was so hugely popular that it was pirated all over the internet, and it was a huge success. And basically it was because it was getting at one of the core pain points for web designers, web developers, web agencies. how do I get the price up? How am I supposed to sell something for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and instead of $1,000, $2,000, etc. And because I had successfully done that, I was able to teach other people how to do that. So focus on solving people's biggest struggles. Another example is I teach people how to become a product marketing manager. I had numerous product marketing manager positions, senior ones, junior ones, high level ones. Another influencer does a very good job teaching people how to land a job as a flight attendant, which is a dream job for a lot of people. And she does this with a Facebook group. She has over 10,000 people. She promotes her books and products, and she also has coaching clients as a way to monetize this influential status that she has. Buying products and services from influencers is really the easiest way to connect with them. It's an easy foot in the door. People often just disregard cold emails altogether, but if you have purchased something, then they will listen. So, an example of this, and I wasn't doing this in any sort of manipulative way or anything, but I'm a huge fan of this book called Competition Demystified, written by Columbia business professor Bruce Greenwald. And I just sent out this email. I said, "Hi, Dr. Greenwald. I'm a huge fan of Competition Demystify, which I purchased multiple times in various formats, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." And then I just asked him one piece of advice: strategy marketing for tiny startup product businesses, your biggest fan. So, and he almost immediately gave me very solid advice because it was something I wasn't able to get from his book, which I had purchased multiple times. So by buying his product, you are more likely to get the ear of the influencer or the journalist, whoever it is you're trying to get in touch with, owner of a blog, etc. Okay, another cool thing is to use Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a great way to get publicity, get early adopters for your product, get early funding. The person who inspired me many years ago to be an online teacher, he uses Kickstarter all the time. So it's definitely something to consider. And later we're going to talk about how Kickstarter can be effective in events. Now, there are four key ways that you consider to become an influencer yourself, to become famous. Build a huge social media following. I recommend modeling successful influencers. The authors of this book are a little more focused on finding a niche. I think finding a niche is fine if you're trying to sell consulting or some sort of high value contracts. But if you're selling low ticket products, which I've done a lot of, and some of the top influencers are doing, like Dan Lok, then even though Dan Lok is actively talking about high ticket offers and a lot of his promotions, really, if you look at the gateway into his system, it's low ticket offers, ticket offers that are around, say, $50, etc. So the other thing you want to do is write for authority websites like Entrepreneur, among many others, Forbes, etc. You want to get interviewed on radio shows, TV shows, and podcasts. Later, I'm going to talk about how to get on TV. And the other thing you can do is serve an industry so well that you become the go-to person in it. Hinge Marketing talks a lot about this. Hinge Marketing is run by a PhD who's done a lot of research on marketing professional services. And he says what you want to do is develop an insider reputation within a given industry or within a group of whoever your target audience is, and then you become the go-to person, the person that easily pops into people's minds when they need somebody with that expertise. You want to create and speak at events. Now, why do I have this chart here with the timeline? The reason is because when I'm doing very complex marketing, I create a calendar, a global marketing calendar, where I'm building everything. And one of the first things I put at the very top is key events that are happening, key trade shows, virtual summits, etc. And often I sort of align everything around that. That's the starting point. So it's very important to nail down those events. So an example from the book is the author starts the first podcasting conference called the Podcast Movement. You want to write for large websites. If you just publish on your own blog where you have almost no subscribers, very little traffic, it's really pointless. It's a waste of money. But getting on those high traffic sites gives you nice SEO backlinks. It gives you tons of traffic and audiences. So I'm currently doing a lot of emphasis on this right now. So here's an example of analysis I did looking at monthly visits. And there's different websites you can do to estimate traffic, like SimilarWeb, SpyFu, Moz, etc. So I can see I was considering MSN, which gets 690 million visits per month, and 4.5% estimated are people that are interested in software and tech. Chicago Tribune, not quite as much, but audience profile about the same. I'm looking at Washington Times, Digital Journal, and Hacker News. You can see Digital Journal is significantly lower. It doesn't even get a million monthly visits, but 50% of the people are interested in software and tech. So it's highly relevant, even though the traffic volume is lower. So that's some of the trade-off decisions you need to make when you're trying to write for these larger websites is, do I want just a high authority website like MSN or a highly relevant but also high authority website like Digital Journal? Now, in order to get published on these large authority sites, one of the keys is basically not having fluff. There's too much fluff out there. What they're often look for is deep content. Talk about things other people aren't willing to talk about. Two effective examples here. 5 reasons why social media marketing is overrated. This is an example of something that got published on Entrepreneur Magazine. 7 reasons you're not a better man. So you can see this listicle formula is very effective. You want to write what other people are afraid to write about, strike a nerve, and educate them. So, one of the things I always say, especially for startups, is be willing to take risks because you have no reputation to lose. If you have a reputation, that's when you can start being more conservative. But start by being bold because if it's too bold and people don't like it, they're going to forget about you anyways because they've never heard of you in the first place. So, you may as well try to have a nice angle or a nice positioning for your article. Know your vertical or what section of the website slash publication you want to contribute to. And that really requires researching the publication, whether it's HuffPost, Entrepreneur, etc. And pitch your article idea by emailing the blog owner, the journalist, the influencer, etc. Again, focus on deep, strong content. So, for example, if you want to get published on HubSpot, which has a formal application process for articles, one of the easiest ways is to have original research. So, for example, if you have a large database of customers and you can do some sort of quantitative analysis on customer patterns, then publish that on HubSpot. Now, here's an example of a bad pitch to a publication. Hello, so and so. I'm a huge fan of your blog. The content is great. I would love to get back by writing a guest post for your audience. Do you take guest posts? Again, very generic, templated, insincere. People can see through it. Now, let's look at an example of a good pitch. Hello, so and so. I'm a fan of your website. My favorite article is name a specific article that has helped you. I have written a guest post that speaks to your audience, which is at the bottom of this emails. At bottom of this email, bloggers hate attachments, so send the post, the article idea at the bottom of the email after your name. Here are some samples of my work on these websites. Name a few places you've guest posted and hyperlink the article. So, for example, I was recently published on MSN. I can put a link to that. Now, the other thing is, if we look at the research on how you change people's minds, how you influence people from Jonah Berger of Wharton Business School, is giving them a menu of options. So if you just say, here's this, do you want to do it? They are highly likely to say no. But if you say, hey, here's 3 ideas, is one of these interesting to you? Then you might be more likely to get published that way and take 3 different angles or pitches. Here's a formula for getting on TV without paying for advertising, so actually getting spots. Number 1, target local TV stations for weekend shows and target a slot that's going to be around 3 to 5 minutes. Why? These are the easiest ways to get in. Local TV, less competitive, weekend shows, less competitive. So choose a topic, and there are basically 3 topics you want to consider here. A current event. So, for example, a GMO moratorium that's entering your community. B, an ongoing event. So, for example, Hawaii's huge homeless problem. Or C, a general problem. So, for example, 3.5 million homeless people in America. So, choose a topic and present some way that segues into who you are as an expert to speak on that. 3, contact an associate producer, get them on the phone. Why? They're bombarded with emails. So you can get them on the phone, you'll stand out, but be brief, 5 minutes max for your pitch. And 4, leverage your appearance on TV. So take that opportunity to teach viewers something and be convincing. And something that isn't in the book, but you'll find elsewhere, is that the nature of television is very different from other publications. Like, for example, a research article you publish on HubSpot, there's really no room for nuance. So you have to kind of take one direct message, one simplified message, and even repeat that on TV because that is what TV is looking for. It's not kind of a nuance, oh, here are the exceptions, blah, blah, blah. You need to make your main point and highlight that. And one of the key points I want to say is use community events as a gateway to get on TV. So, what's happening in the market overall, and use whatever event that is to give yourself some publicity. Leverage that event. Some specific advice for coaching businesses. Executive coaches charge an average of $325 an hour, business coaches $235 an hour, life coaches $160 per hour, and the author estimates that he charges around $250 per hour. Now, if that's the business model you want to take, just keep in mind your time, it's not as scalable as doing a product business, for example, but it's still a nice lifestyle for you. Now, be wary of free consultations. Often it might be effective to charge even a reduced fee for an initial consultation. So at least you're getting people that are interested in paying you, and you're not just giving away your time for free. The other thing that you can consider is if you do want to give away something for free, make it a pre-recorded webinar where you're able to teach something specific. So, for example, solving a big struggle people are facing, and then you're able to distribute that webinar, repurpose it, and you're able to basically give a free consultation, but at scale, at a more economical level. You can consider per month pricing. So, for example, X number of calls per month, flat rate pricing, where you have a fixed price per session or per call. You want to mention to people that you have coaching available for sale. So, for example, if I was in urgent need of money, I could just blast out an email or a message to all my students and say, hey, here's my TidyCal link or my Calendly link, pay me for a session and I'll give you some consulting. Another thing that you want to do is you want to partner with someone who has a big email list to promote your coaching business. Some tips on self-publishing. If you have 1,000 email subscribers, that can translate to a significant income for you. Understand your audience and create a program they can't resist. So understand is really empathizing with what their big problems are. You can build a lot of traffic again through targeted guest posts on high authority websites or websites that have bigger audiences than you do. You want to focus on SEO, so that means backlinks. That means putting things like your target keyword in the first paragraph and probably in your title as well. You want to do interviews, reach out to hosts of podcasts. I was very successful with doing this with a Google Accelerator startup. I got all the top podcasters, most of them anyways, in the world on in the veterinary industry, and I was able to find them using SparkToro, which will spit out a list of the top influencers by a given channel. And I was looking at podcasts in that demonstration. You want to offer free items, things like templates, webinars, white papers. You can see here in this YouTube video, I'm promoting my competitor analysis template where people just give me their email to access this spreadsheet where they're able to do an advanced competitive analysis on a single page. Get bloggers to review your book or whatever product you're selling or promoting, even if it's your free template or whatever. Get them to share it on social media and write it on Amazon review. Of course, getting them to do so is not going to be simply about asking them, but giving them something in return. So there's reciprocation there. Now, some specific tips for events. Provide speakers with a custom I'm speaking image so they will post them on their social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. So don't assume that because somebody's speaking at your event that they're actively going to promote it. The authors talk about how they were disappointed when this didn't happen. But if you give them something like a cool little template of, hey, I'm going to be speaking at this event, then they're more likely to post that. So for example, I'm speaking at this event, this email marketing summit, and here are some pictures of people that must have spoken at the event last year. But if this was modified into a social media post, like a square image that has an excellent professionally edited photo of you, talks about the branding for the event, then I'd be highly likely to promote that on social media. And here's another example of an event that's being promoted through LinkedIn, Content Marketing Virtual Summit. The nice imagery here, the pictures of the speakers, is a very effective way of building your personal brand and the brand for the event itself. So, doing pre recorded podcast interviews is one of the easiest ways to start doing event type marketing. Again, this is something I did at a Google Accelerator startup that was very effective. We're basically getting free presentations essentially around 30 minutes long globally to talk about the story of our product. You can get sponsors for your event if you need the funding to rent the Hilton or whatever. Identify a problem and prepare a presentation that solves it is one of the easiest ways of getting the attention of people. Kind of like at the beginning when I was talking about that, how to get to $20 million as an Amazon seller is an aspiration for a lot of Amazon sellers. Keep in mind that most events don't pay speakers, so you're not likely to get paid for most events as a speaker, and you're not likely to have to pay people to speak at your event. But if you do want to get paid, then you can approach the event organizer to get a paid speaking gig. You can basically highlight, here are my major publications, here are some events I've spoken at, here's how many followers I have, how many customers I have, etc. Basically bump up your personal brand so that they're highly likely to pay you to speak at your event, and you can use demonstrations of events you've already spoken at. So for example, a recording on YouTube. And you might want to consider asking for 50% upfront, especially if you travel far, and get them to cover your hotel and travel if you're at that level where you think you can ask for that. And you can validate the idea for your event before you start investing money in it using Kickstarter. And you can use the money from Kickstarter to book the facility, to book the speakers, the travel, etc. You could also consider using Airbnb or a local church to get an event, especially for a smaller venue event. Now, you want to engage with key people, whether these are potential customers, influencers, journalists, other people that are your peers that you're trying to network with. So you can tweet them, comment on their Facebook page, leave meaningful comments on their blog that shows some level of insight and depth into reading their materials or watching their videos, etc. Be brief but powerful and establish a relationship, not just a superficial, oh, that's cool kind of comment. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the coolest, easiest ways to get your foot in the door is just buy their products. And to wrap up here are some key influencer tips. Pick a profitable audience. So having an extremely large audience is nice, and a lot of people on Instagram, for example, have that. I know some influencers that seem like they're super high level, but they're really not making any money. So the key is a profitable audience. And I think I myself as an influencer, this is one thing that I've done very well. Not necessarily the largest possible audience I could have globally, but the audience I do have is monetized very well. You want to build a website. One of the reasons you want to build a website is because it takes time to build authority, especially with Google's the search engine. So get on that quickly. And sometimes it's going to be required. So for example, I recently responded to a Haro request to be published in a publication, and they mandated that you have your own website. Be a guest writer on blogs, a guest writer for high authority sites, be a guest on podcasts, getting interviews. It can be one of the easiest ways to get publicity. Use self promotion for personal branding. And this is basically how you shape the narrative of how you want to be perceived so that you don't rely on the audience to shape that reputation for you. And I think the author does an excellent job of this at the end of his book, where he says, referring to himself, he has been called the Zig Ziglar of the podcasting world. So that's kind of like an elevator pitch for your personal brand, and you have to think about what that would be for you.